This is a reply to a Mr Graeme Thompson. Now, normally I don't bother to give replies to people that I think are, to be quite honest with you, educated idiots. However, he's decided to make a video, and in it he says that originally he thought I was far right, then he decided, no, I wasn't far right, and now he's changed his mind and he believes I am far right. So let's get a couple of things clear. First of all, not far right, just not far wrong, as I've told many people on many occasions. But this whole debacle with Mr Graeme Thompson started because he had an argument with a guy called Luke Nash-Jones. And the argument was on a page that was to do with the Brexit march. And this was an argument about Nelson Mandela. Luke Nash-Jones believed that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Mr Graeme Thompson says, no, he was the man that brought the end to apartheid. To which I saw the argument unfold on an inbox message that was a group message amongst many people, including Mr Graeme Thompson, I might add, who was in there giving his full support to the veterans against terrorism and also to many other groups that he was trying to influence and trying to get his opinion to be superior to everybody else's. Now, because the veterans against terrorism are quite capable of thinking for themselves, and this argument broke out between him and Luke, and he was asked to keep it off that page, and he was asked to keep it out of that chat box, take it up with Luke personally. I had seen this argument, but I'm bearing in mind that Mr Graeme Thompson had messaged me previously, sending me photographs of him with, we'll call them cats, laid on his chest, because he'd been watching my live feed. In fact, he was a bit of an avid watcher of live feeds and had watched me on live feeds, I believe, with Simon, and he'd put ideas forward, and I said I will run those ideas by the Veterans Against Terrorism, and if they believe that they're good ideas, I'm sure they will run with them. I do know them, I do sit down with them, I do talk to them. We have a very good relationship. We talk to each other, they listen. If they're not sure of something, they'll ask me. If I'm not sure, I'd ask them. That's what I told him. He then decides that this argument between him and Luke is going to bleed over into everybody else. So what I did was I thought, I'm not messing about. I'm not a person to fanny around. I'm not here for people to inbox me. And that's what he was doing. Inbox after message, which I'm quite happy to do what he did if he wanted to. Screenshot the whole conversation and put it out there. The reason I don't do that and haven't done that, Graham, is because I don't breach confidentiality. You see, a conversation is a private conversation. You took a mere portion of the conversation, haven't you? But I have the whole conversation. I might just pop it out on Facebook for everybody to have a little look at. But I took it upon myself to ring you and have a conversation with you directly. And all the words that you were using when you were saying, do you believe I'm a communist? And I said, I don't know you. I don't know if you're a communist. I don't know. Not a question I can answer. I said, but what you're saying is that because Luke Nash-Jones thought that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, which he actually was, I might add, he placed a bomb in a child's pram. I don't know how much more of a terrorist act you need. So he was actually a terrorist. Regardless of whether he became a good man when he came out of prison, he was a terrorist. You making out that he wasn't doesn't make you the bigger person. So the argument was between you and Luke. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with anybody else. You brought it to my inbox. So I rang you. And when I put that to you and said to you, this is not the place for that discussion, you chucked your toys out the pram a little bit, and I took your words and I placed exactly the same words to you as you had placed to me, to which you then said I was disingenuous and manipulative. And I said, no, I'm taking your words, Graham, your words, your descriptions, and I'm putting the same thing to you. And you didn't like that. You didn't like it. And I ended the conversation with, we will leave it there. And you turned around and said, you believe me to be far right. And I said to you in that phone call, do you believe me to be far right or an extremist? Because I would never go out and commit an act of terror, nor would I go out nor would I kill anybody, and neither would Luke Nash-Jones. He wouldn't go out and harm anybody. He wouldn't go out and physically attack anybody. Whether you agree with his views on Mandela, that was what the conversation was about, Graham. It was about Mandela. So let's keep it in perspective here. We were talking about Mandela. His views on Mandela, in my opinion, didn't make him an extremist. He just did not believe that Nelson Mandela was a good guy. And because of what he's seeing happening in South Africa, and that is where his family comes from, I could understand why he feels the way he does. That doesn't make me far right, which is what you're now claiming. You then said to me, well, you invited the National Front. I did used to think you were far right. And I said, no. If you're going to quote me, please quote me correctly. And I have made numerous accounts. I've made videos explaining exactly what I said. What I said was, I don't care what you are. BNP, National Front, EDL, makes no difference. If my views are not views you share, this is not the place for you to be. And when I said that to you, you went, oh, is that what you said? I said, yes, it is. That is what I said. Oh, well, in that case, you said, no, I don't think you're an extremist at all. You also knew about the countless help that I've given to Muslim women. We had a conversation about that as well, but you failed to mention that. You cherry-picked little bits of a conversation because you got put in your place by a woman. See, I see all these people like you moaning about, well, women need to stand up to the fight and they need to start being stronger and they want equality, they need to step up. And well, I do step up. I do. But what I actually said to you about the march as well, so we'll clear this up, I said to you that when a march happens and you've got maybe 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, it is impossible to know who turns up at that march. Getting up and having a minute's silence, if that's the case, we should have a minute's silence for that man, a minute for the Muslim man who was killed at Finsbury Park, which was absolutely abhorrent. It was an abhorrent act from that man to kill that man, and he was responsible for his death. Make no bones. Whether he was having a heart attack or not, he was responsible for that man's death. And I do not justify that at all. I think that is absolutely abominable. But if we're going to have a minute's silence for him, we'd have to have a minute's silence for Palmyra Silver. Don't suppose you even know who she is, do you, Grant? We should have a minute's silence for the Muslim man who was killed by a fellow Muslim man because he was celebrating, wishing people happy Easter. We should have a minute's silence for Lee Rigby. We should have a minute's silence for every girl raped across this country by Muslim grooming gangs. If that's the case, no speeches would get done because we'd all be holding a minute's silence. I then said to you in that screenshot, which is the only bit you've showed of that conversation, isn't it, Sunshine? Very smart. Just remember, I have the whole conversation still on my computer. And I said to you, I can't dictate to the veterans what they do or how they address this situation. I'm asked as a speaker, do I give them advice? Yes. Do they listen? Yes, I believe they do. I think they'd probably tell you that too. But what you have done is taken a small portion of what I actually said. And that was only the bit that was said in typed form. What you couldn't remember, any of the conversation on the phone, could you, Graham? It's very select, isn't it? Very select. Now, the truth of it is, the reason I blocked your backside is because you had gone whining in multiple different people's accounts into their private inbox messages, complaining and trying to get them to take sides up against each other to defend your backside. And I told you then, I'm not there for that. I don't have enough hours in the day in between giving girls support that have been groomed and raped, Muslim women that need help and support, and meetings that I go to. I don't have enough hours in the day to deal with you chucking your toys out the pram like a big baby, which is what you did. And what I actually said to you on that phone call, pull your big boy pants up and grow up. Stop acting like a petulant little boy. Because somebody has a view or an opinion you don't like, you're all for freedom of speech, then they are entitled to that opinion. And if they think you're a communist, whether you are or not, they're entitled to think it. Just as you now think that I am far right. Doesn't make it factually correct just because you think it. But you're entitled to think it. That is your right. But if you're going to quote me correctly, Graham, because otherwise you are being disingenuous and manipulative. So anybody who has got Mr Graeme Thompson, telling it's Thomas or Thompson, on their Facebook, here's a little heads up for you. He'll cry like a girl when he can't get everybody to do things the way he wants it done. And he'll chuck a hissy fit in everybody's inbox messages. And he'll demand you do things the way he wants them done. My advice, as I told you, Graeme, organise your own event. Do it however you choose to do it. Ask whoever you wish to ask to come along and speak, no matter who it is. But don't start an argument over Nelson sodding Mandela, because we cannot change that. The man's dead. He's done. Deal with it. Gone. Because you were hurt by somebody's words and their opinions on Nelson Mandela. Because they are entitled to their opinions too. You fight for freedom of speech, but yet you want to be the thought police. So why don't you think about that? For now, you take care, Mr Graeme. You be good, stay safe. And I do wish you all the luck in the world with whatever you choose to do. And if you do hold an event and I think that it's a good event, I will endorse it and I will share it out. Will you do the same, or will you just still bleat like a girl? Grow up, get a grip, and stop being a crybaby.